Your brain doesn't actually think. It simply tunes into thoughts that already exist in the field around you. That might sound outrageous, but let me share something that could make you question everything you thought you knew about your own mind. Roger Penrose, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, along with other respected scientists, has started to admit what mystics have been saying for centuries. Your consciousness isn't created by your brain. It's received by it. Think about it. Ever tried to manifest something, doing all the visualizations and positive thinking, only to see nothing happen? Or maybe you've had a flash of brilliance out of nowhere, like the answer just dropped into your mind as if whispered from beyond. You might have even wondered where those thoughts come from, or why sometimes you just know things you've never studied. The answer may lie in a discovery shaking the foundations of science. Your mind works exactly like a radio antenna. Just as an antenna can pick up different stations, your consciousness can tune into different frequencies of information that already exist in the universe. This isn't vague philosophy or new age speculation. It's cutting-edge science, and it completely changes the way you can interact with reality. Neuroscience has long treated the brain as if it were some kind of supercomputer, processing data and generating thoughts from scratch. But here's the strange part. If the brain really created consciousness, how do you explain those moments when you feel absolutely certain about something you've never studied? Or the times you dream of a place you've never visited, only to arrive there one day and find it strangely familiar? And there's more. Ever had a song stuck in your head but couldn't remember where you first heard it? Or thought about someone and suddenly they call you out of the blue? Mainstream science calls that coincidence. But Roger Penrose and other quantum physicists are suggesting something radical. Maybe it's not coincidence at all. Maybe that's your mind doing exactly what it was designed to do. Together with anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff, Penrose developed a theory known as orchestrated objective reduction, or ORC-OR for short. The name might sound complicated, but the core idea is simple. Consciousness arises from quantum processes happening inside tiny structures within your neurons called microtubules. Think of them as microscopic antennas, picking up signals from a universal field of consciousness. Picture it this way. When you turn on a television, it doesn't create the images on the screen. It captures electromagnetic waves already in the air and decodes them into pictures and sound. Your mind may be doing exactly the same thing with thoughts and awareness. This perspective helps explain so many mysteries that conventional neuroscience has never been able to solve. Like how some people, during surgery, report floating outside their bodies and later describe details they could only have seen from above. Or how mediums seem to access information about strangers they could never have known. Or why you sometimes sense something is going to happen, and then it does. The materialist view has always carried a massive blind spot. It can't explain how a network of physical neurons, which are basically cells like any others, could suddenly produce something as rich and complex as subjective consciousness. It's like trying to argue that a pile of wires and circuits could suddenly feel emotions or experience mystical visions. But once you see the mind as an antenna, it all begins to click. Consciousness isn't generated by the brain. It already exists in a universal quantum field. The brain is simply the receiver, tuning into that field and translating it into your personal experience. French physicist Jean-Pierre Garnier-Mallet takes it even further. He suggests that multiple timelines are unfolding simultaneously, and that our minds can access information from those parallel streams. According to him, when you feel a strong intuition or a clear premonition, you may actually be receiving data from a future version of yourself who has already lived through that experience. Sounds like science fiction? Maybe. But think about your own life. How many times have you just known the right choice without being able to explain why? Or avoided danger because of a gut feeling? Maybe your mental antenna was tuning in to knowledge from another version of you that had already been there. Quantum physics has already proven that particles can remain connected no matter how far apart they are. This phenomenon is called quantum entanglement. Einstein himself dismissed it as spooky action at a distance because he couldn't accept it, but today we know it's real. Two entangled particles react to each other instantly, even if they're on opposite sides of the universe. Now imagine if consciousness works the same way. If every mind is entangled within a universal quantum field, that could explain phenomena like telepathy, collective intuition, or why entire groups of people around the globe seem to come up with the same breakthrough idea at the same time. History is full of these moments. Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace both developed the theory of evolution independently. Nikola Tesla and Guglielmo Marconi worked on wireless transmission simultaneously. Gottfried Leibniz and Isaac Newton each invented calculus in the same era. How could such ideas appear in different minds at once? Perhaps because they were all tuning into the same frequency of information already available in the universal field of consciousness, like two radios picking up the same station. But here's the fascinating part. If your mind is truly an antenna, then you can actually improve its reception. Just as you can adjust a radio antenna to sharpen the signal, you can train your awareness to lock onto higher frequencies of information. EEG scans have shown that during deep meditative states, the brain displays entirely different wave patterns, as if it's shifting into another channel. People in these states often report accessing knowledge they never studied, solving problems with sudden clarity, or feeling an overwhelming sense of connection to something greater than themselves. This isn't vague mysticism. It's a kind of conscious technology you can learn to use. What's truly remarkable is that throughout history, spiritual traditions have always hinted at this idea. In ancient India, the Vedas spoke of the Akasha, a universal field where all knowledge is stored. Carl Jung described it as the collective unconscious. The Greeks referred to the nous, a universal mind that connects everything. And now, modern physics is catching up. The quantum information field, unified field theory, and Rupert Sheldrake's hypothesis of morphic resonance all point in the same direction. There is a universal field of consciousness, and our individual minds are simply receivers tuned into it. But there's a crucial detail most people overlook. If your mind is an antenna, the quality of the thoughts you pick up depends on the frequency you're tuned to. Just like a radio, tune into a low frequency and you'll get static, noise, and distortion. Tune into a higher one and the signal becomes crystal clear. When you live in states of fear, anger, or victimhood, your mental antenna locks onto lower frequencies. That's why you keep experiencing situations that reinforce those feelings. It isn't law of attraction in the mystical sense that people often imagine. it's closer to physics. You're literally picking up information streams that match that lower vibration. But when you elevate your emotional state through gratitude, compassion, love, or simply inner calm, your mental antenna shifts to higher frequencies. That's when insights, opportunities, and synchronicities begin to show up, perfectly aligned with that elevated vibration. It helps explain why some people seem to get lucky over and over, while others feel trapped in constant struggle. It's not luck at all. It's tuning. It's the frequency their minds are consistently receiving. Now that you understand your mind as an antenna, the question becomes, how do you improve the reception? How do you consciously tune into higher frequencies of information and possibility? Jean-Pierre Garnier Millet uncovered something fascinating in his research on the doubling of time. According to him, there are specific moments each day when our mental antenna becomes far more receptive to information from other dimensions of time. He calls them time openings, brief windows where reality folds and allows access to knowledge from the future or from parallel timelines. These openings often occur during transitions, when you're falling asleep, waking up, or during natural shifts like sunrise and sunset. In those moments, your mind is less anchored to immediate physical reality and more open to subtle frequencies. Think about it. When do your best ideas arrive? In the shower, while driving, or in that hazy space between sleep and wakefulness? That's no accident. In those states, your conscious mind loosens its grip, allowing your mental antenna to capture higher frequency signals. But here's something almost no one talks about. The quality of your mental reception doesn't depend only on your internal state. It's also influenced by external interference, just like a regular antenna. Imagine trying to tune a radio right next to a power line. All you'd get is static and noise. The same happens with your mind. Certain external influences create noise that blocks you from receiving clear information. Environments overloaded with electromagnetic pollution, too much Wi-Fi, constant phone use, endless TV, microwaves can interfere with your ability to pick up subtle frequencies. That's why so many spiritual traditions placed such importance on practicing in nature. Far from technological interference, I am not saying you need to live as a hermit. But notice how you feel after spending a few hours at the beach, hiking in the mountains, or walking in the forest away from devices. Your mind feels clearer, your intuition sharper, your own thoughts easier to hear. That's because your mental antenna is free from interference and can resonate more naturally with the Earth's frequencies. The planet itself pulses with an electromagnetic rhythm called the Schumann resonance, around 7.83 Hz, which happens to be very close to the brain's alpha waves, associated with relaxation and creativity. When you sync with that natural frequency, your mental antenna aligns with the Earth's field, giving you clearer and more accurate access to information. But external interference isn't the only factor. Your own beliefs act like filters on your mental antenna. Think of it this way. Even if a radio works perfectly, if you attach a filter that only lets certain frequencies pass, you'll only ever hear those stations. Your deepest beliefs work the same way. If you're convinced that life is hard or nothing ever works out for me, your mind will filter the information it receives so that it only captures thoughts and opportunities that reinforce those convictions. It's not that better opportunities don't exist. They're out there, broadcasting all the time. But your filter blocks them. It's like owning a radio capable of thousands of stations, but only ever hearing depressing news broadcasts because that's where the dial is stuck. That's also why so many manifestation techniques fail. People try to visualize positive outcomes, but they keep their mental filters programmed for lower frequencies. It's like trying to tune in to cheerful music while the radio is still locked on an emergency channel. Garnier Mallet proposed a simple method for reprogramming these filters. He called it temporal projection. The idea is that you can send information to future versions of yourself and then receive guidance back from them. Here's how it works. Before you go to sleep, you form a clear question or request in your mind. Then you send that information to a future version of you who already has the answer or has already achieved what you're seeking. During sleep, your mental antenna becomes more receptive and can pull back the information. Many people do this instinctively without realizing it. Have you ever gone to bed with a problem and woken up with the solution crystal clear in your mind? Or asked the universe for a sign before sleeping, only to wake up with exactly the guidance you needed? That happens because, especially in REM sleep, your mind is freed from the conscious chatter and can tune into dimensions of information you can't access while awake. But here's the key. Just like an antenna needs to be pointed precisely to capture the right signal, your intention has to be clear and specific. Vague requests like "I just want to be happy" or "I want my life to improve" are like trying to find a radio station without knowing the frequency. You might catch something, but it'll be full of static. When you make specific requests, "I need clarity about this career decision," or "I want to understand why this pattern keeps repeating in my life," you're aligning your antenna with the exact frequency where that information is stored. And here's something that might surprise you. Your mental antenna doesn't just receive information, it also transmits it. Just like a radio antenna can both pick up and broadcast signals, your consciousness is constantly sending out information into the universal quantum field. That means your habitual thoughts, your dominant emotions, and your core beliefs don't stay locked inside your head. They ripple outward as frequencies you're transmitting all the time. Other people, especially those tuned to similar frequencies, pick up on these broadcasts subconsciously. That's why you instantly click with certain people while feeling uneasy around others. You're literally in sync or out of sync with their vibration. It also explains why, when you're genuinely calm, confident, and at peace, you tend to attract people and opportunities that match that state. You're not just lucky. You're transmitting a signal that pulls in experiences aligned with your frequency. But here's the trap most people fall into: trying to fake a higher frequency. They put on a smile, repeat positive affirmations, and act cheerful on the outside. But deep down, they're still holding on to fear, doubt, or resentment. That doesn't work because your antenna broadcasts your true emotional frequency, not the mask you wear on the surface. It's like trying to pretend you're listening to classical music while blasting heavy metal through the speakers. No matter how much you fake it, the real signal is still the heavy metal. That's why real change begins from the inside out, when you truly shift your emotional state through genuine gratitude, honest forgiveness, or simply finding peace with what is. Your antenna automatically locks onto higher frequencies. And here's another fascinating discovery. Studies on heart coherence show that when your heart enters a harmonious rhythm, usually triggered by emotions like love, compassion, or gratitude, it generates an electromagnetic field thousands of times stronger than the brain's. This heart field doesn't just shape your own mental processes. It can actually be detected by other people several feet away. In a sense, your heart acts as an even more powerful transmitter than your mind. When you combine heart coherence with mental clarity, you reach what scientists call psychophysiological coherence. In this state, your mental antenna operates at peak efficiency, both receiving and transmitting information. People who master this state often report extraordinary experiences, razor-sharp intuition about future events, the ability to positively influence environments simply by being present, and a constant flow of synchronicities that guide their lives in beneficial directions. This isn't magic. It's a conscious technology grounded in real quantum physics. So let me ask you, have you ever had an experience that only makes sense if the mind truly works like an antenna? Maybe a sudden insight that came out of nowhere, a gut feeling that later proved right, or an unexplainable connection with another person. Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. But there's one more thing I haven't told you yet, and it may be even more revolutionary than everything we've covered so far. If your mind really functions as an antenna, then it's possible for outside forces to interfere with your signal on purpose. I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. I'm talking about something far more subtle and potentially far more dangerous. Think about it. If someone wanted to influence what you think and feel, it would be much easier to interfere with the signals your mind receives than to try controlling billions of brains individually. And there's growing evidence that not only is this possible, but it may already be happening. Research into specific electromagnetic frequencies shows they can induce emotional states like anxiety, depression, aggression, even feelings of spiritual presence. Imagine the implications of that. Why is it that, in recent years, people seem more anxious, more divided, more disconnected from each other? Why do so many report a sense of spiritual disconnection, even though we have more information about consciousness available than ever before? Maybe it's because our mental antennas are being bombarded with interference that keeps us locked into lower frequencies. And maybe it's time to learn not just how to tune our minds, but also how to protect them. In the next video, which will appear here on the screen, I'll show you specific techniques to shield your mind from these interferences and ensure you're always tuned to your authentic frequency, not one that someone else wants you to receive. Because a free mind is a mind that can access the infinite potential of the universal field of consciousness. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.